Hello, everybody out there in Facebook land, TikTok world, YouTube, anywhere there's going to be a clip of this or a live version thereof. Welcome to the broadcast booth, everybody. I am Monty Anderson, your host here at 412 Productions, the art of Monty Anderson. Yes, you're looking at a piece of my artwork right here on my shirt. I'll go ahead and get that out of the way now. Hopefully, y'all are doing great out there for Saturday morning, the 27th. Only a few days left in this month. So hopefully this month has gone well for you. If not, I'm sorry to hear it. Today we're going to be talking about decluttering, and that can be a lot of different things. We're going to get into that here in a little bit, as we always do. Oh, reference materials and all this other good stuff. Getting closer and closer to finishing this massive 18 by 24 piece of artwork that's sitting on my desk for God of War, and I'm putting in a whole lot of villains coming at the main characters in the middle of the page. I'm also working on another book cover for a novel, another novel that another author that has approached me and wants artwork done. So got that going on. As opposed to, or not opposed, as including to creating a logo for the other book that I'm in. Sorry, Frank Herbert. Right here, I'm creating the logo for this Sour Worlds right here. Yes, this is my artwork on the cover right there for Calamities. Book 2 is soon to be available as well. That he's got it written up and ready to go, rock and roll. Let's see what else is going on. Got a painting commission in the works sitting right back in the back. Still working on. Everybody knows the bane of my existence. If you've been here before, this little piece right here. Still working on this one. It is not complete, but it is close. Now, the other thing with that is I have a conundrum with that piece. The original person that commissioned it, total so far hasn't even made it to the halfway point of where I normally start a piece of artwork in their payments. I've got somebody that could potentially purchase it right now. So I'm almost to the point of refunding the original person their money back, which isn't much. And selling it off. But then there's the principle of it all. Well, he is making payments. They are teeny tiny payments. Again, still not at the halfway point of where I would normally start a piece of artwork because this is technically practically almost finished. I have a few more small things to do to it, and then it's complete. So I'm in a conundrum. I know last time I asked, what would you people do? What would you guys do? And quite a few people said just finish it, let him finish his payments, and never deal with him again. I probably won't ever hear from this guy again after this is complete, but who knows? Just all thoughts. Just all thoughts on thoughts on thoughts. You're welcome, Kelly. Kelly is another book author. We're supposed to be doing some stuff together ourselves. Some illustrations for her poetry books that she's got out, and so on and so forth. Um, so I'm working with a lot of authors right now. So that's pretty cool to get into books and illustrations. I've got a kid's book out as well with another friend of mine, Larry Donald. He is a boxer, and he is telling the story of his life through a kid's book. He's starting it out as a chapter book, he said first, and then he's going to get into an illustrated book um, thereafter. So we'll look forward to that. I've done the front and back covers for his first book. Um, so hopefully I get to see some comps out of that eventually. We'll see. So there you go. And oh no, I've already been to bed. It doesn't matter if anybody's watching or not. I still do my thing. So you came on my channel, so obviously you're watching. So, there you go. Um, what we do here is we talk about horror movies, sci-fi movies, comic books, comic book movies, my artwork, my comic book artwork, all the good fun stuff in life instead of the boring humdrum stuff that everybody else talks about, such as politics and religion. Those are the two things we don't talk about here, and we never do. So there you go. If you want to go to those channels, they're out there. And if you want to go watch your ladies, they're out there right now too. Shaking it for your money right now. So there you go. As I was doing some decluttering, which is what the title of today's show is about, started finding some of my older stuff. When was this from? 1992. Some of you weren't even born from there. So, well, that's cool. Go for it. Go cuddle with John Wayne Gacy. It's going to be 6 feet deep, but to each their own. Found one of my old Christmas pins. Bum, bum, bum. Spider-Man Christmas pin from 1992. Very cool, very retro, very classic. He needs a touch up on some paint, but he is vintage. There you go. I always put my socks on first and then the shoes. All right. So in the comic industry, you see it a lot, and it's overplayed a lot. And I'm not sure if this is a true thing or not yet. I haven't looked 100% into it. But apparently, they are going to put a kibosh, a halt to, a stoppage of the use of basically the same 12 overworked comic book covers that people do an homage to out there. So, what I'm talking about, for those of you not in the comic book industry or in the comic books at all, is people like to do comic covers of specific comics that have been around for a long time. They take and do an homage cover, which means they use the same pose, the same style, the same look as a previous cover from long ago. And what they're talking about in this article is that, like it says here, um, this is taken from an article on Instagram where your man at the comics descriptive makes the point that there are a number of homage covers that have been done so frequently so as to be beyond cliche, such as the famous Akira cover, where you see Akira walking towards the motorcycle, from all of the book covers, from all of the movie covers, anime, all that good stuff. New Mutants number 87, Amazing Spider-Man number 300, one of the most iconic ones, where it's got the circle with the 300 all in it, and then he's really compact inside that circle as he's swinging towards you. Incredible Hulk 240, Amazing Fantasy 15, oh, Action Comics. I can't read the next ones because they're under black. But then you've got the X Men Comics number 1, Uncanny X Men number 141, Crisis on Infinite Earths number 7. That's basically where Superman's holding Supergirl. Giant Size X Men number 1. The list goes on because there's so many iconic covers that people keep paying homage to that it is getting kind of ridiculous because you're seeing the same pose, the same look over and over and over again. And it's played out. People want new. People don't want the same look cover on all their comic books, on all their graphic novels. So there's a big discussion on the whole situation. Like he says, it's hard to dispute this from where I sit. People doing covers from this list now seem to be creating them out of cynicism, and this whole business might do a bit better for looking further afield than the same 2 dozen comics for inspiration. And then, of course, it sparks a whole dispute and gives other comic book covers as well. Um, and what I like about this group, the Comic Swipes, is that they show you where this was done previously on a different book or even signage. And then they show you the comic book cover that corresponds with it more recently. They did it with a Captain America from like 1989, and then Breaking of the Bat in Batman with Bane, because it shows Captain America getting bent in half by another gentleman breaking his back, and then you've got Bane doing the same thing to Batman, X amount of years later. But it looks like the exact same pose practically, just a little bit different. And then they show a lot of other things where, like, carnivals and their spook houses stole artwork from EC, what was it, EC Comics back in the day, with like their Crypt Keeper and some other horror icons on the front of their comic books, but yet they were using them at the carnivals, or the carnies were using them. I know they don't like to be called carnies. So you got the carnivals and all that good stuff are swiping covers from comic books as well. So all that being said, why rehash the same comic book covers over and over and over again? Yes, your comic book industry recognizes them. Yes, your comic book industry enjoys them to a point, but they enjoy the original over the homage 90% of the time. I see a few homage covers in my collection of, what do I have? Probably about 6,000 comic books, or maybe close to 10,000 comic books if I had to guess. And it does get tiring to see the same cover over and over and over again. And through this article, people are telling some of their most brazen ones that people use that they don't like anymore, like the Amazing Spider-Man 300, Amazing Spider-Man 129, the Akira slide. Just like Absolute Batman. And just on and on with the covers. And there's also did a Hulk cover on one of the actual Hulk comic books that has a big red no sign, like you see around cigarettes and things like that. And no smoking and all that good stuff. Well, they did it on an Incredible Hulk comic book one time, and you know, basically saying we're not going to take homage covers for that book. And the very last comment on that particular thread at the time was, "I'm just glad no one swipes from Gru the Wanderer." And if you don't know who Gru the Wanderer is, go check him out. It was a pretty cool little comic book series back in the day, late '90s, mid '90s, early 2000s. Very very fun comic and all that goody good stuff. Let's see here. What else we got to talk about before we get into the declutterization, like I need to do some more of. So that's some of the cooler articles that I've seen here lately. I started watching Undertone, since we do talk about horror movies here. A very slow burn so far. We haven't got very far into it. We're probably 15, 20 minutes into it, maybe. Very slow burn. If you don't know what Undertone is, it is about a paranormal podcast crew that gets these mysterious tapes sent to one of the people in the group, and they're listening to them live on their podcast, and then they start hearing some sounds deep inside of the tapes, and that's the whole premise of the movie. Is the undertone, because it's an undertone podcast is what it's called. So they are listening to these tapes that was sent to this guy anonymously as part of the group, and she starts hearing the noises under everything and starts to analyze deeper on the tapes. Again, very slow burn. Um, it's one of those that hopefully I make it through, because supposedly the last X amount of time of the movie is when it supposedly gets really good. But like I said, so far, very slow burn on Undertone, which is out on Netflix or Amazon Prime. I can't remember which one it's on right now. But we will be continuing on that one. Been watching a lot of older movies on Amazon Prime as well. Haven't watched Tubi in a hot minute. Um, been watching a lot of like Doll Man versus Demonic Toys, and a lot of the what you would consider not even B-rated movies, a lot of C-rated horror movies. But they're fun. You don't have to think about them. You just put them on in the background while I'm doing my artwork, and just glance at the screen every now and again, and just move forward from there with them. So What is your favorites when it comes to some of the new horror movies out? I know that there's a lot of new horror movies coming out. What is some of the new horror? Send Help, I wouldn't consider a horror movie. It was a psychological thriller at best, so I don't know why it is in the horror category. I mean, it is directed by Sam Raimi, but it is not a horror movie by any stretch of the imagination. The only horror spot was when she was having a nightmare and the guy's girlfriend comes at her as a zombie. That's the only horror in the entire film. It's a psychological thriller at best. It's not a horror movie. 28 years later, The Bone Temple was okay. It just opens up the saga for 28 years later to continue on in mass, especially the way they left it in the end. So, Hokum, I've heard good things about that one. It's on streaming right now. It's to rent or buy. Obsession, another good one that I've heard good things about. Back Rooms, another one that I've heard about, but not sure if that one's a technical horror movie or if that one is a. If you're talking about purchasing artwork, absolutely. What's your request? Let's see. Evil Dead Burn is coming up later on. That one, of course, following the new Evil Dead remake, you know, right there. That is it a like a podcast or is it a what is that? Where is my where is my MTV? There it is. It's a song. Okay. Hey, hey, L. Welcome back to the show. How's it going out there? How are you? I know last time we talked, you having a little bit of troubles in the military side of relationships and all that good stuff. So I'm good. Um, it's SoundCloud. Hold on, I'm looking up something. HXLX. Anima Perduta. Hopefully, I've got all that right. Hopefully, you spelled it right. I'm just kidding. Um, so how are things going with you all the way through? I know you said you're all right. Are you just all right? Oh, let's see. Scary Movie, of course. We all know that one is out. Um, and then Beware Boina, Boina, something like that. I don't know. It comes out in October, so we got a few that are coming out here pretty soon. Let's see what's coming out for 2027. It's been stressful. I'm sorry. Okay, that's cool. Hopefully that works out for you. Seriously. Are they military as well, or are they civilian side? Okay, very cool. That's awesome. Get your finances in order by her help. Okay, so we've got a huge slew of new movies coming out in 2027. Some of them I'm not too excited about. Let's just be honest. Well, that's good. That's awesome. That's very awesome. And I seriously wish you the best in that because I know in the military relationships can be hard. Um, like I said, and like we said the last time. But it sounds like you're heading in the right direction with it all, and that's good. I'm happy for you because I know relationships can be tough, even with anybody. Doesn't matter, married, dating, whatever. All right, so The Exorcist, a new vision of The Exorcist, kind of like they did with The Crow, with their reimagining is what they called it, which they should have just put two different people's names and done that way. I have not watched Backrooms yet. I'm hearing good things about it, and that's one of the ones we just talked about from 2026. It should be out already, and a lot of people are talking about that one, just like Obsession and Hokum, or Obsessed. No, is it Obsession, Obsession, and Hokum? Those two are some of the best ones that I've heard of good things about so far. Now, of course, you've got your critics, as you do with everything, and it's like you're either going to love it, you're going to hate it, one of the two. There's no in between anymore. There's nobody that's like, well, I would have loved it if I would have, I could have, done the if. But some people say it's bad, but it's only because they don't know the actual lore behind. Absolutely, absolutely. And but like I'm watching Undertone right now. We've gotten about 15, maybe 20 minutes into it. Super slow burn. Um, and I'm hoping I get through it. To be honest, let's just be real. Um, because they say the action really gets good at X amount of point in the movie when it comes to the supernatural side of it all. So, but like The Exorcist is going to be coming out in March next year by Mike Flanagan, and Scarlett Johansson is going to be her first horror movie. Uh, Jacoby Jupe is going to be in there as well. So looking forward to this one to see what their reimagining of The Exorcist is because I've got Linda Blair's autograph on my wall where she's levitating off the bed as Reagan in that movie from back in the day. The Conjuring First Communion, I was hoping they were done with the Conjuring movies, to be honest. Called Imagination Game, huh? What is that one about? I might have seen it. I'm not 100% sure. I'm writing it down. The Imitation. Oh, I'm sorry. I read it wrong. And I do that from time to time. The Imitation Game. You've got. It's free on Tubi. Yeah, I've got Tubi. So I can check that one out. The Conjuring First Communion. Like I said, I was hoping they were done with the Conjuring films after Last Rites, but now we're going to First Communion, basically where it all started. The Blair Witch Project. I am not a fan. I wasn't a fan when it came out. It's a reboot of the project, the lost film footage project. Um, Supposedly going to happen in sometime in September. Silent Hill, absolutely great movie. I'm hoping, in some ways, I'm hoping they kind of redo that one 100%. The first film was good and captured your attention right off the bat, and they really should have just continued on with that, and they didn't. Now I know they did the CGI version, whatever it was. Yes, absolutely. And then the next one that they did, I watched it just here recently, and at 100%, they took it away from what the game was, and that's where movies get it wrong. Just like in some comic book movies as well, they go their own direction with it instead of keeping it where it should be with the game community or the comic book community. Now, if you're going to take from a comic book, follow the storyline. Don't start putting in all these little things that you want into a comic book movie. Follow your storyline. It's like that little bouncing ball that they used to have on the Saturday morning cartoons. Um, Whenever they wanted you to sing along, and I think they still do it on some of the Nickelodeon and stuff like that. I really don't know, but so absolutely 100% a great film. And technically, all of those films in that franchise were really good, but a lot of people didn't like Red Dragon. I loved Red Dragon. Now the TV series, hit or miss with the Hannibal TV series. Um, but you had so many great films in that line. Now I wish they would have kept Jodie Foster in there, of course, throughout the rest of them. But obviously, she wanted too much money at the time. It's psychological thrillers. They base them in horror, basically. That's where they categorize them. But it's psychological thriller is what they are. Yeah, the psychological thrillers are some of the best when it comes to that. But I love my over the top blood and gore and all that good stuff because I've been watching it since I was like 8 or 9 years old. Because my parents had HBO way back when it first came out because they wanted, you know, mindless entertainment as well as everybody else back in the day. Let's see, Paranormal Activity, another one that needs to stop. Paranormal Activity 8 is coming out sometime in next year, May, it looks like. Another one of those that we saw at theater for the first time. It was hilarious. A bunch of military guys went to check it out. I can't remember exactly where we were at, but we were all sitting in a row. We had a bunch of people in front of us, um, African Americans. The only psych horror that truly scared me was the humans. Ah. The human centipede is good. Um, good stuff. Just like Tusk was one of those freaky movies. What could it says another supernatural tale, seeing the return of the vengeful spirit. Oh no, that's the wrong one. Another installment of the long-running found footage series. It doesn't tell me the whole premise, but back to the story of the first one, first Paranormal Activity that came out. We're sitting there. I'm laughing through the whole fucking movie. I just can't help myself because it's so horrible. All these African Americans are sitting in front of us are just jump scares, and they're getting triggered by all the stuff on the screen, and you can physically see it because they're like, oh, 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 all this stuff, and I'm sitting there back there laughing. The next row back, and the very last scene in the first one, if you've never seen it, the camera falls over because of all the activity that's going on in the room. She's destroying her boyfriend or husband, whatever it is, and then you see her fall to the floor, and then you see her body contort into this weird movements and all this stuff as she starts crawling towards the camera. And as she gets there, the camera starts to flicker and all this stuff. And then her face goes to this um, skeletal look, and then back to her face, and then the skeletal look, and all this. So it's doing this jump scare of the flashing of the face. Well, that entire row practically jumps their seat almost into our laps. We're dying laughing, and I just couldn't take that movie seriously. I can't even take the whole franchise seriously, and I've watched pretty much all of them. I didn't realize we were up to number 8 now, but uh, again, it's another lost footage type of film. And then you've got The Revenge of La Lorna. What was the box office for it? I don't even remember what it brought in at the box office. It wasn't very good that I remember, but I know to date it's probably brought in what they made it for. But now you've got The Revenge of La Lorna. If you know the legend of La Lorna, the Wailing Mother, this is a vengeful supernatural tale seeing the return of the vengeful spirit. And that's going to be released sometime in 2027, around April thereof. And that's all they've got so far on this list, anyway, as the top spots for the highly anticipated horror movies. Now, there's going to be a lot of horror movies that people probably aren't going to like or whatever. But that's with any movie that happens. Just like we were talking about the superhero movies getting ready to come out. They only had listed so many, but I know there's a lot more because I've seen bigger lists on comic book movies coming out in the end of this year and the next year and beyond. So I know Marvel's got their slate through like 2032 or something like that of all the films that they're going to be releasing. So all of that goody good stuff. So I want to see another Texas Chainsaw movie. They're actually re-releasing the first one in theaters, just like they are doing with a lot of projects. They're re-releasing the originals back into the theaters for a short bit. And I think they're getting ready to either do a reboot of Texas Chainsaw Massacre, kind of like Rob Zombie tried to do, or they're going to continue on with the franchise. I'm not sure which way they're doing it yet. I'm not seeing it up here at this point in time, but that's some of the rumors that I've been seeing through some of the communities that I follow on Facebook when it comes to horror movie communities and things like that. And I'm looking forward to some good horror, something that makes me want to say, well, I'm never watching that again, instead of I watch it and it sucked and it's just like, well, yeah, I'm never watching that again. I want that traumatizing horror. I haven't found one yet. I'm 54, going to be 55 years old, and I haven't found one that I'm like, I will never watch that movie again because it was so fucked up that it kept me up for days. I haven't found one like that yet. Yeah, yeah. Well, and that's with any of the franchises, though. Nightmare on Elm Street, Friday the 13th, Halloween. After a certain point, where do you go besides to the comedic side of horror? Which one is it? Because I've seen so many like Sallow and the unrated versions, and that's where I go is the unrated versions when it comes to a lot of movies. What is it? The something Days of Sodom or something like that. It's another foreign film, but I haven't found one yet that's like it is so fucked up that it's banned in almost every. Oh, Serbian film, we've got it. I would watch that one again in a heartbeat. The unrated version. I it, we own it. We own that's the one I was trying to think of. Serbian film and Sallow. We own both of those copies. So again, something I would watch again. So I haven't found one yet that's like, oh my god, it's so disturbing. And that one's not really even a horror movie, and neither one of those are a horror movie, but people put them in that horror movie category. And they're psychological thrillers, and yes, they're disturbing, but it's not something that I wouldn't watch again. You know, you have a whole list. Please send it to me, because I'm hoping I can find one that's like, yep, nope, I'm never watching that one again because it was so disturbing, kept me up for days thinking about it. So again, haven't found one yet. I'm 54 years old and still waiting, still waiting. Now, when I was a kid, obviously things scared me or bothered me because, like, we went to the drive-in theater to see Jaws or King Kong, one of the two, and my mother was like, "Yeah, you stayed under the dashboard watching that movie." You know, I have a list of disturbing and horror movies. It's ranked on an iceberg. Okay, send it to me. Please send it to me because I am looking for those out of the way things that I haven't seen before, and a lot of things that people have suggested in groups that are like, "This is so disturbing." It's just like I laughed through that movie. I will never watch that movie again because it was so stupid. You know, again. I watched some of the most bloody, disturbing, just because of the content, and I can't even talk about what some of the content is in here on the show, or I will definitely get booted off of the channel. Um, and it's just like I haven't found one yet that's like, no, no, never again. Because like you brought up the Serbian film, that was disturbing to a point, but it's not like something that I would never watch again because I know I missed something the first time, just trying to take it all in. And so, I've seen it probably 3 different times now, trying to make sure I didn't miss anything. But yes, that one is a disturbing film. If you are of weak stomach or of weak mind, don't watch it. Um, because it is messed up in certain parts. I can't tell you what it is. Well, that scene and one towards the end of that movie, those are the messed up, traumatizing parts, and I get that. So this movie is not for everybody. Let me just put it that way. When it comes to a Serbian film, it is definitely not for everybody. It's kind of like watching Kids. It was a movie called Kids back in the mid '90s. There was a bunch of teenage kids getting drunk, having sex, all that good stuff, and it was just like very disturbing film for the age. Plus, they were spreading diseases at the same time. So that one was a disturbing movie back in the day, and I've never seen it anywhere since. I watched it on HBO, I believe it was back in the day, and the one where he was with, yes, yeah, that's what I'm talking about. That's the other part in the movie that is a traumatizing part for some people. So, and if you've never seen the Serbian film, I do not recommend seeing it, but go see it. It is a fucked up movie for sure. Um, and that's what I like about foreign films is they get away with so much more fucked up stuff than the American side. And I don't know if it's just the mentality that they're used to seeing this type of stuff um, on a more regular basis than we are, or they're just more open to talking about that type of stuff than we are because we know it's happening here, but we don't address it as much. It's like, let's take the Epstein files that have obviously disappeared all of a sudden. Nobody's talking about it anymore. Same kind of concept, if you get my drift. And but the foreign films bring that stuff out more than what we do here in the United States when it comes to filmmaking. Again, you go to a foreign country, you watch their commercials, and it's basically an X-rated commercial, you know. Whereas here, the closest you get is herbal essence commercials. Okay, um, unless you're watching Facebook, and then they've got full on pornography going on in commercials, and nothing ever happens to those, you know, because it doesn't go against their policy guidelines. How does a commercial showing you full on porn not go against your policy? And the same thing here. I'm seeing more and more stuff on Instagram that I've never seen before in my life, and it's just like, holy shit, how is this even passing? You know, their guidelines when it's straight up full on bareness, nudity, if you will. Thank you, Radar O'Reilly from MASH. Happening as you open up your page and or your platform or your app or whatever, and here's this full on nudity showing up. You know, I am not opposed to it, 100%. But you know, I thought there was guidelines for that because kids get on this app. Kids get on this app. You know, yes, I know there's parental blockers and stuff like that and all that good stuff for the people that have children that use these apps. But those kids are smarter than you, and they know how to get around that stuff. They watch what your login is, people. So, and I understand you only saw that movie once, and it's understandable because I mean it is okay. I appreciate that, mucho apreciado. I appreciate you, L, 100%. I really do. You know, you're a great person. I don't care what anybody else says. It's just like whenever people talk about, it's just like people on the top of my show. No one's watching this dude. Why don't you go to bed? It's like, well, obviously you're watching it because you just commented on my post, on my page, on my live show. So, and by the time it's all said and done, you know, I'll have, you know, upwards of 400 people that have stopped in and checked out the channel for X amount of time. And it used to be a lot better than that. I used to be up in the 3,000 and 4,000 people range, stopping in and checking things out. So, but that's neither here nor there no more. Bum bum bum. I'm trying to see anything else in there that's going to be up and coming, but it's not. There's nothing cool. Nothing else coming up that's cool right now. All right, we're going to get into the decluttering section of the whole program, where you need to declutter stuff out of your life. You start accumulating so much shit. It's like me. If you look in this little doorway right here, you see all my action figures that are lined up and all that stuff. Well, what am I really doing with those? Yes, they're great nostalgia feel to have when you're collecting certain things and all that good stuff. But it comes a point in your time in your life where it's just like, why do I have all this shit? You know, if I needed to bug out really quick, what would I take with me the most? You know, if you don't have a bug out bag, make one. You might need one eventually. Um, but we accumulate so much stuff. I was hearing my girlfriend and her mom talk just yesterday, and how her mom wants a simpler life, and how her husband wants to do a garage sale, but she's like, no, we're not going to do a garage sale. We're just going to start getting rid of all this shit. I'm at the same point. You know, I could have a garage sale and get rid of a lot of stuff. Just like we had a garage sale one time. We sold a lot of stuff. Not going to lie. We sold a lot of good stuff, a lot of bad stuff, you know, whatever. And the rest of the stuff, we just collected up, loaded her car completely full, which she's got a little Versa note, if you know how big that thing is. It actually has a little wind up key on it on the car to get it started. I'm just kidding. I give her shit about her car all the time, but it's a good car. And we loaded that up all the way, ceiling to doors in there with the stuff that we had left over. And we took it to a place called Savers, helped them unload it, and went on. We didn't even care what was left, and it's just like, why do we accumulate so much stuff? Is it because we didn't have stuff growing up? I know my parents tried to appease us with stuff growing up, and they always had a lot of stuff. They were hoarders at best, if you will. And I see where that becomes an issue later on in life. Just like I saw an article, I overconsume certain. Absolutely, we all do. There's no. I mean, if you look around my office, it's cluttered, 100%. I know you can't really see that in this image right here, and if I were to pan through the whole office, you would be able to see the clutterization that's everywhere. Because I've got artworks unfinished over here. I've got reference materials here. I've got reference materials there. I've got paints and markers and colored pencils down here by my feet. I've got, all of the art cards scattered out all over the place right here that are up for grabs, by the way, from Walking Dead to Stranger Things to Chaos to Dawn, Joseph Michael Lynchner's Dawn, all that good stuff, plus a whole slew of others that aren't even drawn on yet. And then I've got books on top of movies, on top of towels, on top of, just stuff, on top of stuff, on top of stuff. I spent hours deep cleaning my room on Monday. Now it's so clean. Awesome. And that's, you know, once I'm about to open this place up. That back wall that you see where the Adam West autographs are right there won't be here anymore. And actually, you'll be looking back this direction to where we're sitting now when it's all said and done. Because I'm getting ready to do some renovations around here, which means that whole wall back there is getting pushed back 100 feet. The screened in porch is going away. And it's like, at that point in time, everything is going to get cleaned up and cleared out and give me room to move some things around. Like right here, where I'm sitting, is going to turn into my comic book cubby, which is going to have my individual spots for my comic book boxes, all that good stuff. And then sitting on top of that is going to be my print station for my 3D prints and things of that nature. And I'm excited too, because that's going to open up an extra 100 feet, inside the house. So that'll put us up to 1,700 square feet instead of the 1,600 square feet that we're sitting at. And I've got to I got to find someone that's more knowledgeable than I am when it comes to 3D prints, because mine, I use the resin 3D print and it does well on certain things, but then all of a sudden it starts to stick to the film on the bottom, and I don't know if it's too hot, the light is too hot, or whatever, the UV light that when it makes contact with that one little section, if it's just not doing what it's supposed to, or what's happening. But I just don't know, because the print starts to stick after a certain point. Like, I've got a print still sitting up there that's been up there for a couple days, or longer than that actually, that I printed, and it was doing great until it got to the head portion. And then boom, all of a sudden it started sticking, and now my print is just shit. So I'm in Arkansas area, Fort Smith, Arkansas area. So, and I'm in a couple of 3D printing groups, and I'm looking for one. Oh yeah, absolutely. Now, if I had the filament style, I don't think I'd have any problems at all, with that. But this is the resin 3D prints, and it's a brand new film um, on it, and it shouldn't be sticking. Period. So I've talked to other people doing it the same thing, and they give me some points and things like that. I guess if you need one, I guess we could. I don't know why you would want one for yourself, but that's a pretty odd request. But to each their own. If you're into the pain with the pleasure, I guess we could do that. people ask some strange requests. But I know people are into that stuff too. So, you enjoy your spiky butt plug. So, there you go. So, but yeah, it's a brand new film on there. And so I don't know. Can I get one too? You want it as a pencil holder? I do have somewhere running around here, a 3D printed, not mine, but I bought it from somebody that printed it. I think she used herself as the model, but it's a pencil holder, or technically it's a plant holder, uh, because it's got a hole in the base, but it's of a bust, literal bust, right there. You got into trouble in your early years, didn't you? As much trouble as you could be, growing up in the '70s, 70s and '80s. Whenever you weren't home, most of the time you were outside all the time on your bikes, because I didn't want to be at home most of the time. So yeah, I got into as much trouble as I possibly could. Yep, like I said, I'm 54 years old. I'll be 55 pretty soon, and never spent a day in jail. So there you go. Even though that was my whenever you fill out those things, most likely to, you know, it's like, oh, absolutely, I had a blast. Most of my classmates put down, what would Monty most likely do? Most likely be in jail. But they did not get that right. But I know many of other classmates that have spent many times in jail. In fact, one I think might still be in there for, unfortunately, um, smurdering his wife at the time, with a shotgun blast to the face. Um, yeah, he was the kid that got picked on and bullied in school. Yeah, apparently ended up getting married and then going psycho on her, and now he's spending his the rest of his life in prison, from what I understand. Tragic outcome. Again, that's why you don't bully people in school, because they could turn around and do what he did. You know. But yeah, no, I was a little hellion, if you will. You know. Yeah. Unfortunately, Ace, it sucks. You know. And that question, I'm not sure about society. Um, some people are just led that direction, if you will, um, because they don't see anything wrong with it. And yes, society plays a big role in that. Absolutely, yeah. And thanks for the like, shares, and the follows. We're up to 1.3 thousand, which still puts us in the popular live category. Um, I know a lot of things changed when they started taking corporal punishment out of schools, which still should be in schools, because those little fuckers need swats on a regular basis. Um, am I influenced by it? Absolutely not. I'm who I am. I will always be who I am, and I think for myself. You know, I'm trying to tap as much as I can. I need one of those tapping devices. So you need a fidget spinner type of a thing. You know. Well, you've got flying cockroaches that are like butterflies. Um, but no, once they took corporal punishment out of school, that's when things started going to shit. 100%. Because I mean, hell, we used to drive to school with shotguns or rifles in the little spot behind our head in our trucks. You know. Oh yeah, 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 yeah. I get what you're saying. I get what you're saying. I've got some friends that have that, and they bring that in here, and helps us out a lot when it comes to that. for the like section. Yeah, they've got those automatic, and that's how a lot of people get their likes on their program, is because they recommend that little clicker to everybody that just automatically does it for you. And we never had incidents like you see today, where you get the all of the mass stuff happening at schools or anywhere like that. And like I said, we had loaded ones behind our heads in our trucks. Some in people that drove cars had them because after we got out of school, some people just went hunting right after school and or fishing, depending on what you were into. And it was just like nowadays, you see that you know something's going to be happening, not in a good way. And I know that there are still some country areas that still have that going on, where they've got that little rack behind your head in your truck where you can carry it, but that's you don't see that much anymore at all. Period. So yes, society plays into a lot of what happens to these kids that are doing all this stuff. I definitely wouldn't have been accepted back then. You never know. And if you're talking about your lifestyle, I think you'd been all right. Because, like I said, my sister went that direction after all of the male hurt that happened. And, you know, I didn't think any different of her 100%. She was still my sister, you know. Am I a redneck? To a point, if you will. I grew up in the backwoods. I grew up running around barefoot out in the woods. Now I wasn't the overall carrying, fiddle playing, you know. No, 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 absolutely not. I'm not saying there's anything wrong with it, but I wouldn't consider myself a true redneck. Um, that you think of the terms, whereas you get into the like the guys that grew up or girls that grew up in the backwoods somewhere that you see a lot of people make fun of, just like they did in Deliverance. They didn't really make fun of it; they made it more of a psychological thriller. I'm gonna make you squeal like a pig, boy. All that good stuff. Whenever you hear the banjos playing, you're supposed to run. But um, but yeah, no, there's nothing wrong with being a redneck because they create some of the most ingenuitive things in the world. With what they've got, and it's smarter than some of the stuff that you see people doing in NASA. You know, and that's good. You have to accept who you are. You can't hide who you are, 100%. And I know it's a difficult thing to do whenever you um, bring it forward and accept it 100% because other people are not so accepting of that lifestyle. You know, I haven't been that deep into the country to see true rednecks yet. Well, I grew up around a lot of rednecks. Not as redneck as the hills of Tennessee or you know uh, Louisiana spots and things like that. But I've grown up around a lot of rednecks, um, and a lot of my stepdad's friends that would come over were redneck, if you will, but they were more citified redneck since they moved to the city. You know, not to quote a Guns N' Roses song or anything, um, but yeah, no, there's nothing wrong with being a redneck. There's nothing wrong with being a sophisticated, snot nosed punk either. But you can tell the difference, 100%. Massachusetts. That's not a bad place to be. I think, have I been to Massachusetts? No, I haven't been to Massachusetts yet. That's one of the states I haven't made it to yet. Yeah, I've lived in two different states, basically, depending on if you want to count all of my deployments during the military. And, because I've lived in some different places and different countries uh, throughout the military. Yeah, I know I would be accepted up there as well. I'll show you and your girlfriend around. That'd be cool. 100%. And let's see, I've been all the way up north in a straight line from Texas all the way up to uh, Minnesota. I've been as far over as Colorado and Utah. And then I've been all the way to Florida and I'm trying to think Alabama, of course, Mississippi, Louisiana, Kansas, been in parts of North Carolina or South Carolina, one of the two that's over there by those. And what else have I been to over there? Oh, Maine. Maine was the farthest north I've been. That was going to Afghanistan. So, yeah. Yeah, absolutely. It's like me. I lived in Afghanistan for a year, you know. So, um, in Kabul, or Kabul, however you want to say it. Kabul or Kabul, one of the two. Um, so yeah, yeah, Syria. How long were you there in Syria? Oh, we just got back in April. Okay, cool. Were you there for? Are they doing 6 months deployments now, or are they still doing the year? Because when I was in, they did a year, and then they cut it down to 6 months, almost a year. I got you. I got you. Did you like it? A very dry heat. Left in May last year, came back April this year. I got you. I got you. Yeah, totally. Well, I mean, you got to look at it too, tax free money, right? Um, that's the best part, 100%. And it's just a whole different world because we were outside the wire, like I said, every time. There wasn't a day that we weren't going outside the wire because we had to take trucks different places all the time. We were the Sec 4 and security force for those of you not in military terms. And we drove missions on a regular basis. And so we were always in harm's way. I mean, we were in harm's way sitting in the middle of Kabul on a regular basis anyway, but we were more in harm's way whenever we drove outside the gates. Um, and it seemed like every day was a different day because some days you'd get everybody waving and cheering at you, and then the next days you'd have people throwing rocks at you and whatever they could find to throw at your truck. It's just like, what the fuck did we do? We didn't do anything from yesterday to today, you know. But you know, cool, awesome. I'm glad you got to get outside the wire, if you will, um, because most of our MPs uh, stayed around base 90% of the time. We had hardly any of them go on missions with us. So unless we were going over to the Air Force base where all the fun stuff was in Bagram and Bahrain, and you were always scared. It's understandable, um, but I never was really scared. Yes, yes, I remember, and I was never really scared. You just always had to be on alert, you know, and because any day could have been your last. We had the IEDs around us all the time. We got hit with an IED. We got into many gunfights, firefights, and on several different missions. We had things blowing up around us, around base, from V beds to that's vehicle borne explosives. If you don't know what that means, uh, mortar fire. You know, oh no, I wouldn't forget. Once it's in my memory, I don't forget that type of stuff. Now I do forget other things, like where the fuck are my keys? Um, I just had that pencil. Where the fuck is it now? Those type things. But when it comes to things like this, no, I don't forget that type of stuff. So, nope, nope, not a bit. I remember. I remember. Might not all have my teeth in my mouth, but I remembers. No, it's all good. It's all good, El. You're a good egg, 100%. Um, I don't care what anybody else says about you. You know, that's what everybody says to me. You're a good egg. I don't care what anybody says about you. And I go, I don't give a fuck either what anybody says about me either. You can make up your stories. You can make up your rumors. I really don't care. I'm too old to give a shit anymore. You know, I'm not going to correct anything that you hear anymore. So that's why I'm not in the working world anymore. You know, I get done with people. I do love some eggs. Well, if I ever come that way, I'll bring some with me. Um, just because with my homestead, I get plenty of eggs on a regular basis. So much so that I'm getting ready to build a kiosk out front to do the vegetable and the eggs sales out front of the house of the homestead. Looking forward to that. Cage free, absolutely. We don't keep them in cages and all that good stuff. They get to roam free. Once, like right now, they're locked up, secure for the night, and come sun up, roughly, we let them out to free range the entire property. That means they jump the fence and get in the front yard too. And sometimes they get into the neighbors' yards. And the neighbors don't mind because they're helping keep the ticks down and all that good stuff. And clean out around their trees and things like that. You know, so that that's beneficial to everybody that's right around us. The 2 yards right next to us anyway. And because they don't venture much farther than that, so which is good, but they don't need to venture at all, but they do. They're birds. You can't even clipping their wings; they still find a way. So, and we clip their wings on a regular basis, and so we've got 11 more that are getting ready to be put into the fold out there once they get big enough. These are all freshly hatched chicks for the most part, and they grow semi fast, if you will. Not super fast, but they grow at a regular rate. So, and we do too. We just had two young kit coons show up yesterday when I was coming back from the grocery store, and I'm driving up and I see two little baby raccoons, basically probably about 10 to 12 weeks old at the most, and you see them coming up out of the culvert. And I'm like, oh, so I stop and take a picture real fast and send it to the girlfriend. And as I'm pulling in the driveway, so we set up a little spot for them to get into if they wanted to. Put a little box out there, and then put some food out there because they got into the yucca plant and stayed in there. And so we put some food out for them, put some water out for them, and they came out of the yucca plant after we went inside. And we were watching from the window, and then we came out just to make sure that they didn't take off, but they were sitting there eating all the cat food that we left out for them. So we try to be as kind to animals as possible. Whereas you see all these other horrific stories of people capturing them and then doing God knows what to them, and then they post it on Facebook, and then they get thrown in jail. You know, um, and I know some people love to eat raccoon. I know some people love to eat possums, but we've got porch possums, we've got porch raccoons, all that good stuff. So, you know, And you're welcome. You can thank Elle for her service too. She's currently in the military. I've been out since 2012, and it was a good existence in there. And you're welcome. And the other thing is that had I done it out of high school, I would have retired from it had I survived the deployments. You know, and so I absolutely do. They are all under lock and key that you know of. I have plenty around here. Um, I will not give an exact amount, but I have plenty. Always be prepared with your M4. See, I like my 45, my uh, Ruger 1911, and I love it. And it just depends because I have a lot of favorites. Um, DP Arms makes a lot of good ones. And I get you like your 9 millimeter. I like the 45. If I miss with a 45, something's wrong. You know, and that's my concealed carry as well. So I'm not old enough to own one for home, but I can carry one. Yeah, I know it makes absolutely no sense. It's just like the whole drinking thing. You know, you're old enough to fight for your country, but you're not old enough to drink. Come on now. But yeah, it makes absolutely no sense. I get what you're saying, and yeah, but now I have quite a few in my collection, and I just like different ones. I like some of the Australian ones too. Some of the European guns are fun as well. I mean, I even like the Russian Dragonov, the sniper rifle out there. It was fun to shoot. I've shot plenty of foreign weapons, from the German weapons to Russian weapons to the Swedish weapons, Australians, because we were hooked up with them in Afghanistan, and we used to go to ranges together. So, absolutely, yeah, I was in Afghanistan for a year, and it was Katrina first. That was my first deployment, kicking indoors, looking for, unfortunately, people that didn't make it out of the floods. Uh, used to snipe once, the Red Wing operations. Not sure which one that one is. I'd have to look that one up myself. A battle in Fallujah. Oh, okay, okay. And the battle in Fallujah, that's very popular. The Red Wing operation, I'd have to go look that one up. With Mike Murphy, but no. And then basically, I did deployments with a training group. Okay, was with Mike Murphy. Okay, I injured my face because I put. Oh my lord! Ouch. Um, I don't mean to laugh, but it's common mistake. How do I cope with PTSD? I laugh. I laugh a lot. I have animals. I have artwork to do. And they give me medication for it through the VA, which isn't everything you need because you don't need to be keep fed in pills on a regular basis, especially with what uh, the effects that some of these pills have that they give you. But no, I keep animals. I go hiking and fishing on a semi-regular basis as much as I can. I go do crystal mining right there. I go crystal mining. That helps because I get to beat stuff and get frustration out, at the same time, you know. And this is one of our recent crystal finds right here. It does have the crystal clear on the top portion that goes into the milky quartz on the bottom. So, and this one is not a rose quartz, but it does have the rose quality just because of that vein running through it right there. and it does have 2 points. The main point here, and then this other point sticking up off of it right there that you can see. And yes, Elle has a tour. Yes, she's been deployed, and she'll have more. She's still young and still in, so she's gonna have a few more, I'm sure. And we always want to keep her safe, no matter what. You're doing the full 20. There you go. About 18 more years to. That's a while. That is a while. Like I said, had I done it out of high school, I probably would have retired from it. Like I said, if I would have, or if I would have made it through all the deployments, if you know what I mean. Because I know had I gone out of high school back in the 90s and retired, you know, 38 years later from the National Guard, Army, that I would have had some deployments under my belt, other than the ones that I did, you know, right out of basic training, and then 6 months later going to Afghanistan. So, who, me or her? Once you retire from the military, you get a pretty good pension, if you will. And me, I'm not working now. I gave up the 9 to 5 4 years ago now, and I'm doing my own thing. I'm an artist. This is one of my works right here, and I homestead and I do illustration on a regular basis. So yes, absolutely. And when we were in Katrina, your regular army couldn't carry live ammo. We did. Make that make sense. When we were in Katrina, we had the live ammo. They got off the boat for the publicity stunts for the camera crews, and we did all the work um, as the National Guard, and we had the live ammo. They didn't, you know. So yeah, absolutely, 100%. Yeah, I didn't mind it because, like in the beginning, I was doing the weekend warrior gig, and then all of a sudden it went to all active duty orders. So you know, so I my entire 6 years in, 8 years total, it I saw maybe 6 months of the weekend warrior gig, if you will, in my entire 6 years. So that's not a bad trade off because I was active duty orders the rest of the time. Like I said, 9 days out of basic training. We were at Katrina for a month and 5 days. Once we got done with that, less than 6 months after that, we were getting deployed to Afghanistan. So that meant going to Mississippi for 3 months for train up, and then a full year boots on ground in Afghanistan, and then another 2 months. So I was gone 17 total months on that deployment, and then back home for less than a month, and then got pulled into the training gig to go help train troops before they went overseas. You know, see, training them in what we saw and some of the stuff that was being seen over there after we left. So we were helping, hopefully, save some lives. By giving you some common knowledge of what you could have possibly seen once you got over there. So, especially going into the Afghanistan region. So, yeah, that was active duty orders the rest of the time. Syria just made me realize the bond we have. Of course, I got very friendly with the docs. Yeah, we had some guys get very friendly with a lot of people over there. No, yeah, everybody, even it doesn't matter which section of the military you're in. You're gonna have a bond with somebody, even out of the military that used to be in the military. Um, because once you're military, you're always military. It doesn't matter. You still have that mindset. Absolutely, 100%. We had our docs friends that that hung with us on a regular basis, and of course, doing the combat life saving stuff when you become a pincushion, all of a sudden, because you're practicing and you have to practice with real needles, all that good stuff. Yeah, you got to become friends with the people that you know are going to help you out the most, and that is a good group of friends to have. 100%, absolutely. But no, you do bond over a lot of cool stuff, because you find out that a lot of you have the same mindset of what you like, what you follow, those type things. And you just have a lifelong bond with these people. Oh, Lordy. I'm trying to remember who all we had on base that was like that. We had some MPs like that. We had some lieutenants that were like that. But as far as our medical corps, I don't remember anybody like that. Mostly I remember dudes, you know. And I was trying to remember some if there was any females in that group. I'm sure there were, but I didn't go down there as much as some people did, because unfortunately our group had one of the highest disease rates going through there, if you know what I mean. Kind of like the movie It Follows, what it was based off of, you know. Which was a stupid movie, by the way. Horrible movie, if you will. And so, yeah. Some things you were glad you didn't get while you were overseas, because that would be a hard one to explain. Well, how did you end up with that? Well, I don't know. Toilet seat, I guess. I have no idea. Uh, because it goes on their permanent record, on their medical record, um, as what you're being treated for. And some guys just didn't understand that, and they had wives or girlfriends back home. The ones with the wives, I felt sorry for the most, because you know that the wives are looking over their history when they're overseas. So there you go with that note. But all right, folks, I think I'm going to kill it for today. It's been a great conversation going through with everybody. L, we will keep communication open. I'm going to go look at your list once I get done here after I post several things to my page. But I do appreciate each and everybody stopping in, checking us out. Don't forget to like, share, and follow. And when you do follow, go hit that bell icon up top. You'll be notified whenever I go live or post. And that way you can always keep up with what is going on here at 412 Productions. I'm on every other day. So today is the 27th, the next will be the 29th. And then it'll still be on odd days, because the next day after that will be the 1st, which will be July 1. So that will be my next 2 live dates, 2 live crew right there. I can, absolutely 100%. I can do that. I have no issues with that. And so, but without further ado, fireworks stream on the 4th. Well, I won't be live on the 4th. That'll be one of my off days, because that'll be on an even day. So And but we can see we could possibly do something there. 250th anniversary. But you all really need to take all these off my hands. Really, you need to take them off my hands. They're posted on my page. If you haven't checked them out yet, you know you can go check them out. The Walking Dead, Stranger Things. You definitely need this guy in your life, right there. The Demogorgon needs to be in your hands and not mine. Take them off my hands. I'll give you a good deal on all of them. You all have a great day, and as I like to say as I leave you guys, we will catch you on the flip side. Have a good day, everybody.